Hey, Chuck here, Corner Store Card Collector, back with another video. Well, I got my PSA box in the mail today, so I just rummaged through it and got everything set up. So I want to show my reveal video of the 100 cards that I put in for the vintage order. I think it was special order number 1 back in February, where you can send a card in from 1989 and older. So I went through my collection and I selected 100 cards that I thought would do pretty good on the grading process. And for the most part, I was pretty spot on, up or down a grade, based on what I thought the grade would come back. There were a couple of duds that I had. And I know when I mentioned yesterday in my early Father's Day video, there were a couple of grades that I got back that were better than I anticipated by a couple of grades. So overall, I thought I did pretty decent. But once I get through the video and I show you the 100 cards that I put in, I'd like to know your comments in the comment box, maybe thinking how I did in the grading process. All right, so with that being said, let me go ahead and flip the camera around and I'll get started with the 100 cards that I sent in. All right, so let's get started on this 100 card vintage reveal. As you can see from the submission form here, I entered my cards into PSA system on February 4th, and that's the same day that I was admitted to the hospital through the emergency room, and I was in the hospital for 17 days. When I got released from the hospital, I didn't have enough time to do a reveal video for this set of cards that went in. However, it was accepted by PSA. The cards got there on the 1st of March. And it is now the 12th, I think, 11th or 12th. I think it's the 12th of June, which is today. So it took roughly about 100 days for those cards to go from start to finish. The special for February was any card from 1989 or older. And I think they were guaranteeing a 120-day turnaround time. So I don't remember the specifics of all that. As you can see, as you can see, I put the 100 cards in. It cost me a little over $1,500 for the cards to get graded. So yeah, I know there's a couple of people on YouTube asking how long the turnaround time was. It was roughly about 105, maybe 110 days. I didn't count the days up. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First, let's start with the bad news. The bad news is I got 3 cards that were not graded. First one is this Bo Jackson Texaco card, and it says that it was questionable authenticity. I don't know a lot about these police league cards, but I've seen plenty of them on YouTube. I've seen plenty of them on selling sites, and I'm not really sure how to gauge that one. I might try to resubmit it again and see if I could get it graded. It looks like it's in really good condition. I don't think anything's wrong with it. It's not a fake or a phony. I just don't understand what they mean by questionable authenticity. So that one didn't get graded. Then I got my 1976 Roger Staubach. Didn't get graded. They're saying minimum size required. So who knows with that one. And this last one was this 1978 Topps Football Joe Green, which they're also saying was minimum size required. So those were the 3 that did not get graded. So that means that there's 97 cards that did get graded. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't do a lot of golf or a lot of racing, but I do have a 1988 Max Rusty Wallace rookie card in a PSA 8. I'm sorry, it looked like an 8. It's a PSA 9. I have this 1909 American Caramel card. Fred Mitchell came back in the PSA 1.5. I don't have a lot of these pre-war cards, especially in the early 1900s, but I do have a handful, probably about 10 or 12 of them that I'm in the process of getting graded. This is probably my 5th or 6th one that I've gotten graded. Next up is this 1939 play ball, Paul Wainer, Hall of Famer. Came back a PSA 3. Next is this 1984 Topps Joe Montana, PSA 8. Next is this 1983 Topps Mike Singletary rookie in a PSA 8. So here's my first dud, this 1984 Topps action card of Dan Marino. This is from his rookie year. Came back a PSA 6. I was calling this card to come back at a 9, at worst an 8, so I need to look at it a little bit closer and see what the deal is with it. But it came back a PSA 6. Next up is this 1988 OPC Mario Lemieux in a PSA 7. This is another card I thought was going to be at least a 9, possibly a 10. Outside shot at a 10, but I thought it was at least a 9. Came back a 7. Next is this 1973 Topps Richard Martin in a PSA 6. Buffalo Sabres and my hockey team. PSA 6. Next up is this 1962 Parkhurst. Came back a PSA 6. There's a bunch of these I sent from the early 60s Parkhurst sets. They're commons, but they looked so good that I wanted to send them in and see how well they came back. A few of them I did get back, came back a PSA, a couple of them came back a PSA 8. Most of them were PSA 6s. Next is this 1957 Topps Don Zimmer. Came back in a PSA 3. Next up is this 1978 Topps Pete Rose. Got a good grade on that one. Came back a PSA 8. Happy with that one. Next up is this 1973 Topps Oscar Robinson. This one got a 4. I thought this one would do a little bit better too. I have to look at it and see why I got a 4. I thought this was going to be at least a 7. Outside shot for an 8, so there's obviously something wrong with the card. Next up is this 1962 Parkhurst Curl Brewster and a PSA 6. I do have some of these cards listed online already. Some are on eBay, some are on Sportlots. The majority of those older hockey cards are online. At least as PSA 6s are, so if you're interested in them, you might want to go check them out. Okay, here's a 1984 Topps Marcus Allen, second year card. This one came back a PSA 8. Next up is this 84 Topps Howie Long rookie card. This one came back a PSA 8. And then I got another 84 Topps Marcus Allen that came back a 7. And then this Walter Payton 84 Topps came back a PSA 5. Not sure what went wrong with this one. I have to look at it a little closer. Next up are these two 1983 Topps Marcus Allen rookies. One came back a dud as a 3. Don't know what happened to that one. And then I got one that came back in a 7. I do have a PSA 8 already in my collection, so both of these are listed online. Next is going to be this 1961 Flair, or I'm sorry, 1960 Flair Cy Young. Came back at PSA 5. This one is listed on eBay right now. Next is this 1985 Steve Largent in a PSA 8. Got an 89 Topps Michael Irvin rookie card in a 9. I do already have a 10 in my collection, so this one's listed, I believe, on Sportlots. It's a PSA 9. And the only 10 I got in this order is this 1987 Topps Bruce Smith second year card. I've done pretty well with my 87 Topps football. I probably have about 6 or 7 PSA 10s. I've had probably 5 or 6 boxes that I opened up during the height of the pandemic. I still have a crap load of them that are ready to be sent off to PSA. This one came back at 10, so I'm happy about that. One of my Buffalo Bills. Next up is this 1979 Nolan Ryan in a PSA 6. This one's listed on Sportlots. Next up is this 1985 John Elway in a PSA 8. I have this one listed on eBay. Next, I got this rookie card, Gale Sayers, 66, Philadelphia, and a PSA 5. Next up is this 1974 Julius Erving, and a PSA 6. '73 Topps Fran Tarkenton in a 6. Next up is this 72 Topps Tom Seaver. Got a really good grade on this one. This one came back a PSA 8. It's a couple $100 card right here. Pretty happy it came back high grade. I believe this is a high series card, I'm not sure. But it did come back a PSA 8. Next up is this 71 Topps Terry Bradshaw rookie. Came back a PSA 2. I do have a PSA 1 listed on eBay right now. It's in the auction format. I just listed it yesterday, so if you're interested in a rookie of Terry Bradshaw, you might, take a shot at that PSA 1 I got listed. Okay, next up is this 62 Parkhurst Bob Bond in a PSA 6. A 63 Parkhurst Mark Rayum. I think I'm saying his last name right, Rayum. This one came back a PSA 8. I'm happy about that. It's a pretty decent looking card, Montreal Canadiens. Oops. Next is this 83 Topps Tony Gwynn rookie. That one got a PSA 9. Happy about that. '73 Kenny Stabler rookie card and a PSA 4. I was hoping this card would have done a little bit better. You can see it's miscut. Probably got hammered on that pretty good, but I thought this was going to be at least a 6. So I'd have to take a closer look at that. Anyway, it came back a PSA 4. Got a '73 Topps Dick Butkus and a PSA 6. '72 Topps Gilbert Perreault, my favorite hockey player of all time. This one got a really good grade, PSA 8. I do have 2 other cards of this one in this order. One's a little bit higher and one's a lot lower. And we got a PSA 8. Next up is this Dan Fouts rookie, 75 Topps and a PSA 7. Happy with that. Next up is this 52 Topps Jim Russell. This one came back a PSA 4. I was pretty pleased with that. It's a common, but you know, I don't have many 52 Topps in my collection, so I'd like to have examples of at least some of the, or not some, but one, trying to get one of each year. This is probably, I think this is my second one graded so far. I have another one in this order too. 65 Topps Philadelphia Dave Deacon Jones. This one got a PSA 5. I believe this is his rookie card for Philadelphia. Next is this 63 Parkhurst Peak Rogaine. This one got a PSA 8. Nice high grade for an early 60s hockey card. Okay, next up is my next dud. This 72 Topps Johnny Unitas got a PSA 5. I do have a PSA 9 in my collection. This one's been listed on Sportlots. It's still there. Anybody's interested in it, PSA 5. Next up is my 73 Topps Terry Bradshaw. I'm in the process of working on his run. This one came back a PSA 3. Next up is this 75 OPC Rick Martin. Love watching these guys play in the 70s. This one got a PSA 5. Next up is this 71 OPC Gilbert Perreault rookie card. This was a definite dud. Don't know why I got a PSA 1. I don't see any creases on it. I mean, the corners are rounded a little bit, but there's no creases on it. I would have figured it would have got better than a 1. The grade doesn't matter, particularly in this card. I wanted it in a slab anyway. It's just rookie card. Next up is this 1961 Flair Art Donovan. This one got a PSA 3. If you've seen one of my previous videos where I was talking about Art Donovan, a fascinating guy. If you ever watch Dave Letterman in the late 80s, early 90s, actually it might have even been the mid 80s, Art Donovan used to be a regular guest on there, and he used to talk all kinds of crazy stuff about how football was back in the 50s and 60s, where, you know, they would go to training camp and they would, you know, practice 2-3 days a week, and then they have to work afterward. They'd go to work after they played the game on Sundays. He had some really hellacious stories. So I became a fan of Art Donovan. But anyways, this one came back a PSA 3. Got a Doug Williams rookie card right here, 79 tops. This one came back a PSA 8. .55 Bowman, Roy Campanella. We got a PSA 2. I haven't done real well with my 55 Bowmans. Not sure why, but I just haven't done well with them. Anyways, good to have them in a slab. PSA 2. There's a 79 tops Mike Schmidt in a PSA 7. There's a 74 tops Bobby Clark in a PSA 6. I just love these 70s, especially early to mid 70s hockey cards. Had some really cool action shots on them. It's a nice, decent card of Bobby Clark. Here's a 72 OPG Gilbert Perreault, second year card in a PSA 5. Got a 74 tops Oscar Robinson in a PSA 6. .77 tops Lynn Swan in a PSA 6. .76 tops Nolan Ryan in a PSA 6. This one's listed on eBay right now in the auction format. If you're interested in this card, you might want to go check it out. Next up is this 1958 tops Jim Ringo, PSA 5. It's my third Tony Dorsett rookie I sent in. All three of them came back 5s. I've sent 2 in previous orders. This is my third one. So I'm not having much luck with my Tony Dorsett cards, especially as a rookie. So anyways, that one came back a PSA 5, trying to upgrade that card, but I guess it didn't work out this time around. And then it's Pat Summerall, 1957 tops. I tried to upgrade. I already have a PSA 6. I'm getting ready to shoot my 1957 top set. Make a video on that here in the next few days. So you'll see this one. This one I have listed on eBay as a buy it now. That one came back a PSA 6, which I already have. Next up is a 72 tops Gilbert Perreault. This one got a mint PSA 9. Very happy with that. Pretty good for 1972 hockey card. Come back a PSA 9. All right, this next one I've had in my set, in my 1977 top set forever. Didn't realize that this was a Burger King variation. Came back a PSA 6. This one is listed on Sportlots. and I'm actually doing fairly well with it. I didn't realize that there was some value to this card at a PSA 6, but yeah, it's doing pretty well for me. If you're interested in this variation, just go check out Sportlots. My username on Sportlots is cmonths53. Again, cmonths53, and you can find that on there. All right, the crown jewel of this order, I was going to save it to the end, but this 1972 Topps Julius Erving rookie card has exceeded my prediction. It came back a PSA 7. I thought it was going to be a 5 or a 6. Came back a PSA 7. I was very, very happy that this card got a 7. I believe this is a $1,700 card right now in a PSA 7, between $1,500 and $1,700. Yeah, this is a beautiful card. Nice colors on it. I actually picked this card up back in the mid-2000s. I bought a lot of star rookies and stars of just a mixed sports from one of my buddies, and this card was in it, and I'm glad I took care of it. Anyways, came back a PSA 7. Very happy at that. Next up is this 1970 Topps Oscar Robinson. This one came back a PSA 6. Very nice card. Next up is my 63 Topps Don Larson. This one came back a PSA 5. Another Gilbert Perreault card. This is the 72 OPG. This one came back a 5. Next up, a 1955 Topps All-American Autogram. This one came back a PSA 4. Happy to add this one to my slab collection. Next I have a 70 Topps Gordie Howe and a PSA 4. This one's another card that has some value to it. The 74 Topps Bjorg Sailing. This is his rookie card and a PSA 7. I believe this is between a $150 to $200 card and PSA 7. Next up is this 75 Topps Gilbert Perreault. I'm pretty heavy on my Sabres cards, especially between Rick Martin and Gilbert Perreault, in this order at least. This one came back a PSA 6. Not the best photo. I mean, it's a portrait photo. Lots of nice color. That yellow is nice and bright. But I prefer, at least for my hockey cards, actually hockey and football card, I prefer action shots on them. All right, next up I got this 52 Bowman Roy Campanella, I'm sorry, in a PSA 3. '68 Topps Mike Ditka. This one came back a PSA 6. Got this 83 Topps Steve Largent, came back a PSA 9. Next I have this 74 Topps Dennis Potvin rookie, came back a PSA 6. This is another one that carries a pretty decent value. For a PSA 6, I think it's about a $125 to $150 card. Here's a 72 Topps Gilbert Perreault. This is the third of 3 that I got. This one was the worst in a PSA 6. So I got a 6, 8, and a 9 in this card. And both the 6 and the 8 are listed already on eBay. Next is this 53 Bowman Bobby Lane in a PSA 3. Next up is this 55 Bowman Don Larson. This one came back a 3.5. Next up is this 54 Bowman Don Larson. This one got a 2.5. Next up is this 74 OPG Richard Martin. Oh, I'm sorry, Rene Robert in a PSA 6. Him and Richard Martin have the same pose on there. I do have this in a PSA 9 on an old slab. This one's a PSA 6. And then the card behind it, because it's stuck to it, is another Gilbert Perreault card. It's a 1975 Topps in a PSA 4. So I have 3 of these in this order too. Next up is this 54 Bowman Inland Tunnel. This is a correct spelling variation in a PSA 5. Another 78 Topps card adding to my collection. This Walter Payton Record Breakers card in a PSA 6. Hoping to eventually upgrade this one to at least an 8, but for now it'll be a placeholder until I can do so. Kind of bummed that Mean Joe Green came back undersized or miscut or whatever they call it, minimum size required. I was kind of bummed about that one. Okay, here's a 63 Parkhurst Billy Harris. This one got a PSA 4. I actually like the design of this card. I like how they put the flags in the background. But yeah, I like the design of these cards from the early 60s, especially Parkhurst. Even though it's a portrait shot. Okay, next up is another dud. These were pack pulled, recently pack pulled. This is a 1977 Topps Glossy. This was an insert card that came in the middle of the pack. This is a Ken Dryden. They're calling it round corners. Hopefully they didn't think it was round. Anyways, it got a PSA 3. This card is pretty sharp. There's nothing wrong with it, so I'm going to check it out after I shoot this video just to see where I went wrong with it. I have another one in here too, and that one did just as bad. Next up is this nice early win. 52 Topps in a PSA 2. Pretty decent card. It's off center a little bit, but it presents very well. It's got nice color to it. I don't know why I got a 2. I figured it'd get a 3 or a 4 like my other one did. Anyways, a PSA 2 with the win early. Or early win. Next up is this Gil Hodges rookie in a PSA 5. Got a 72 Topps Charlie Joyner rookie. Got a PSA 5. Franco Harris rookie card, got a PSA 3. This was very disappointing. I thought this would get at least a 5, potentially a 6. But it came back a PSA 3, so I need to take a closer look at that and see where I went wrong. Next up is this 75 Topps Ken Dryden. This one got a 7.5. I'm not a big fan of those half grades. However, you know, I'll take them. My very first half grade was a John Elway rookie. I got it in an 8.5. So, I mean, they're not that bad, but I'm not a fan of them. Got this 73 Topps Jack Ham rookie in a PSA 7. This is another one that holds pretty good value. I believe this is a couple of $100 card and a 7. Next up is this 73 Topps O.J. Simpson in a PSA 5. This is a 2-grade upgrade from the card that I did have in my slab collection. So I'm happy to replace that. Here's that second 77 glossy I have. This one's Richard Martin. This one got a PSA 4, so it was 1 grade better than the PSA 3 I had. I don't know what I did wrong with this. These cards looked really good. They were freshly pulled out of the pack too. It's got to be something to do with the surface. There might be indentations on it or something. I got to check it out though. All right, next up is this 55 Bowman Eddie Matthew in a PSA 5. I believe this is the highest grade I have for a 55 Bowman right now. Okay, next up is this 74 Topps Fran Tarkenton. This one got a PSA 7. Next up is this 1970 Topps Rebound Leaders. This one came back a PSA 4, and I see why. If you can look closely right here, there's a, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a big old crease right there. Not sure how that got there. I know I didn't, well, I can't say I know, but I definitely missed it if it was there when I sent it in. But, you know, it's got some grates on there, so I was happy to get it back in a PSA 4. I'm happy it's in a slab. But yeah, it's got a pretty decent crease in it. Next up is this 71 OPC Gilbert Perreault. This is his Calder Trophy card. This one got a PSA 4. Next up is this 78 Topps Ken Dryden. This one got a PSA 6. My final basketball card is this 1970 Topps Billy Cunningham. This one came back a PSA 6. I thought I would have done a little bit better with this one. I actually had this one at a 7 all day with an outside shot of an 8. I do have 2 more of these cards that are in really good shape, so I'm going to try and upgrade this 6 to at least a 7, potentially an 8. Okay, my final baseball card is going to be this 87 Topps Nolan Ryan. This one's got a PSA 8, but there's a stain on it. I don't know how I missed the stain. I'll have to look at it and check it out. This one's actually listed on Sportlots right now. PSA 8 with a stain designator. My last hockey card is this 1970 OPC Gordie Howe in a PSA 2. And then the final card for this order is this 1972 OPC Joe Theismann rookie card from the Canadian Football League, the Argonauts. This one got a PSA 5. All right, so that's all 100 cards that I just got back from PSA. The highlights of this submission was the Julius Erving rookie, which came back a PSA 7. That's this guy right here. Very happy with that. And that basically paid for the order. There were also about 5 or 6 cards that came back that retained some pretty good value, couple of few $100s per card. And then the most of the rest are just particularly for my collection. So with that being said, I'd like to know your thoughts on how you thought I did on my grades on the cards that I set in. If you can just go ahead and make a comment in the comment box below, that would be awesome. Just let me know how you think I did. All right, with that being said, I will chat with you on the next video.